Okay, welcome everybody to the Conscious Creation Academy podcast. Today we're talking to Delyth. Now, the reason we're delving and talking to Delyth, apart from the fact that she's lovely, is because I want to bring in these ideas around finance and business into the podcast. Okay, so how I consciously create my business is how I consciously create my life. There's no separation. And on the podcast, we haven't really brought that in. We haven't really talked about that. So this is the first interview. And I know Delyth, and I've always admired Delyth. I may have said it to you, but I've always admired Delyth's commitment to change. Not afraid of change, not afraid of just jumping in. And I have worked with her in my own marketing kind of business, and it's developed into a lovely friendship. I would imagine that'd be true to say. So so what we're going to do is talk today about how conscious creation kind of affects business, how Delyth approaches it, her journey. She's got a great business she's going to tell you about, and there'll be some notes and links in the description below, and we'll see where it goes. So welcome, Delyth, to the first kind of business conscious creation business podcast episode, I suppose we call it. So episode 1 of the business podcast. So welcome along. So where are you based right now? Where are you sitting? Well, you're sitting in a room, but where you're up north, aren't you? I'm in Hertfordshire.
Yeah, I'm in the north. I'm up in Cumbria, so near Scotland. And it's really lovely to be with you here today, Dave. Great.
Cool. So it's pretty cold up there, is it?
It's actually really lovely sunny day with blue skies. We
Okay.
had some beautiful frost this morning. Lovely walking in the woods.
Yeah, you love being outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and going to get Delyth to talk about, and with conscious creation, the idea that you create your own reality, so you create your own business. And that's my experience and how I kind of operate. But let's just get a little bit of background on you in terms of what drew you to, because you work with women. Well, you can explain, but what kind of drew you to doing the work you do, and what is it that you do and why do you do it? I suppose that's a good place to start.
Okay, so I have created a program called The Becoming. It's becoming a suite of programs and services that really help women to feel more secure within themselves, so that they have a more fulfilling life, including a love life.
Yeah.
And that is a reflection really of my own journey, having had an insecure attachment and working through that it was just something it's just within me, and something that I really wanted to do was to help other women who felt similar or the same as I did and were trapped in those very old sort of cycles. However, as my beliefs are evolving and I'm evolving, my business model is also going through a change, and that's kind of happening now. And we can explore some of that in the conversation.
Yeah, well, I suppose I'm interested to know where you think when I think back to kind of if I think back to 30 years, before I was really started doing the channeling. I had out-body experiences and all that kind of stuff as a younger person. I wasn't really considering the idea that we create our own reality. That wasn't kind of, I hadn't bumped in and doing channeling with Aaron and all that malarkey, bumped into the Seth material. You should all check that out, everybody. And, but when I think of myself back then to now, I'm a completely different person, being. How I operate now is much more intuitive, even in the areas that apparently the intellect has to get involved in. I'm kind of 90% intuitive, 10% intellect, and that's working really well, and that's really cool. So it's quite a huge difference for me, much less fearful as well compared to where I used to be many years ago. So how do you think you've integrating, because we've known each other a couple of years now, I think, something like that. Do you think? Yeah, it's a year and a half. Yeah. So
doesn't exist, but
I know, but in terms of that, so we have a relationship for that. So how do you think you've evolved?
Yeah.
What do you think's changed?
I think some of what you just said then, and actually I made some notes earlier, But as I'm becoming more and more secure in myself, my business is becoming more and more secure. Now, I didn't realize when I made the great decision that, yes, I was going to create an online business. It's going to be really easy.
Yeah.
5 years ago, just how much I needed to grow up and become a lot more secure in so many aspects. And what really came up last year was something so unconscious that I realised I was actually quite avoidant. You may not be surprised to hear me say this, around money and parts of the business that I was sort of hiding through other fantasies or manifestations that I was desiring, that it was masking a part of me that did feel very insecure.
Right.
And
Very
so
interesting.
I had to really work on, well, I didn't have a choice. It was because I was reprogramming my subconscious mind with the audios that all came up.
Yeah.
And that has had a profound impact. So as I'm feeling more secure in my business, which is so recent, Dave, this is still really happening now, and feeling more secure in the world, I've had to do work around feeling supported by life.
Right.
I
Yeah.
didn't realise that I didn't believe that 12 months ago or even 6 months ago, which played out in certain patterns around money and needing to be supported through other means, not through my own potential and creativity. That's been very big. And so as that's kind of embedding and I feel really landing, I'm opening up now to other possibilities where before I was quite limited and it had to
It's
be like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting how I mean they do say running, they whoever they is, the idea that starting your own business is a bit of a, baptism of fire and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
but the good thing about I think about content creation, understanding that you create your own reality, is getting to own that more and getting more confident. And as my experience is, as soon as we change quite a fundamental belief, all these internal doorways open up, motivation increases, ambition increases, and choices that one would have never made before seem kind of obvious. And it's really weird sometimes to look back and think, not how silly, and that's not aimed at you, but it's kind of an internal conversation sometimes when you kind of go, what on earth was I, do you know what I mean? What was I thinking? Do you know what I mean? How did I get to that bit? Do you know what I mean? Because now you're at the other side feeling more confident, and the idea I think of landing is kind of really landing in your own reality, your own safety and power, and feeling that support of reality, I think is key to success. And as you say, it's until we begin to notice that, we're always creating these unstable manifestations, these events and these feelings and all that actually are not really supporting us. They're all games, we're all games that we play amongst ourselves. So that's really cool. Yeah. So your ambitions have changed, maybe
Yeah,
or what you think you're capable of has
that's
changed,
it.
and therefore reality has to respond to that. So that's cool. So how have your ambitions changed?
Well, and this is so current.
Yeah.
So the Becoming Digital program, which you were so instrumental in, I feel has such potential in the right hands.
Yeah.
Um, and, there's been something really beautiful happen around that. And if that potential happens, that would be really amazing. But what's also really interesting, I'm not placing my value on it.
Right.
So
Okay. Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it?
this
Yeah.
potential would be so amazing for me, but I've also not placed my value on it. And that is a
Right.
huge shift for me. I was like, that doesn't define me. If that
Yeah.
happens, that's amazing. If it doesn't, I'm still amazing.
Yeah.
And that I'm like, wow, that's really a big shift in my consciousness. And at the same time, I was invited by a friend to begin to develop my YouTube channel. And I really want to do that. Now, that wasn't something I was thinking, because I would have had beliefs of, well, no one's going to follow me. There's loads of people on there. What's the point? And so in the last, say, really this year, these doors are opening. But I made the intention, Dave, at the end of 2024 to become unlimited.
Right. Nice.
And it's like the energy of that intention. And I sat waiting for the intention to come from my inner self.
Yeah.
And it was become unlimited. And I was like, okay. And there's been this continual invitation to expand into what that means. And some of it is just happening, like this potential thing here.
That you're not going to mention. I know what it is, but you're not going to mention it because it hasn't happened. So
it hasn't happened.
It hasn't been that probability hasn't come into your reality
yet. No, if it does, we'll do another show.
Get you back on.
We'll do another show.
Yeah. But the interesting thing I just wanted to touch on, I mean, the reason that you're even having that possibility, which would be amazing, is because you followed your intuition. I think it's just such a, almost pointless word in a way, because it's too broad, but you followed your impulse. You said in Train this idea of being unlimited, kind of you're embodying more of your broader nature, which is so powerful. Like all of us, you are, you're embodying that and you're activating that, for want of a better phrase. And then you're following the impulses that open up, that are drawn from that. And so what was your impulse? Was it an immediate impulse to take that action, or without saying what it is?
Yeah. So received an email from a prominent person, let's say, in this field.
Yeah.
Not to me personally, just an email newsletter.
Yeah.
And I just felt I got an impulse to respond, and it was there like that.
Right.
And I thought, yeah, okay, I am. And I just put an email together really quickly. I didn't analyze it. It was just very friendly and brief, saying thank you for all the work. You've been in my life. Really, it started 20 years ago. That person's come in and out of my life. And I referenced, the Becoming program. And from there, a conversation has gone backwards and forwards about it. And it was just an impulse. It wasn't a desire. It was a pulse. That's what it was. It was different to intuition.
Because I think that's because it becomes the way I follow that is something will just take my attention. So it'll either feel, I feel as you felt the desire to respond, and this is what I've always think you're great at, if I'm honest, which is that you are, which I've said before, haven't I? But you're wholly committed to it. Like me, it's kind of like wholly committed to living in this way, and really embodying the whole thing. And I think for me, an impulse, living by your impulses, just seems so crazy to most people. They just go, oh, it's mental. We've got to worry about it. We've got to dissect it and pick it all apart. But actually, the more, in my experience, the more open we are, the more impulses we get to act in certain ways. And then it's being fearless, not, it's about acting in response to that. So I think that's a really good example. For me, it's more something will gain my attention, and a lot of it for me is to do with light. So you were kind of had your hand here. But for me, I just will often get a little spark of light, literal light, around an email or around a subject, and I will tend to go, oh, okay, pay attention. So I suppose it comes differently. So if that comes off, we'll have to get you back on, see the results of that. But
but what was amazing is I hadn't consciously manifested that. Now, I gave this some thought, and I was like, well, actually, in June of last year, I did do some visualization around it having an investment.
Yeah.
And I saw people around the table, but it wasn't that person. But I'm sure after some weeks, I swapped 2 people and that person did turn up.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's interesting.
Internally, turned up internally
In my vision, yeah.
in your vision. Yeah.
Or I
Yeah.
placed that person there.
Yeah.
And I find it all fascinating, all of this conscious creation, because some of my easiest manifestations I've literally visualized twice or
Yes.
3 times, not the ones that I'm doing every day. You know,
Yeah. Well, I think that, the interest, that's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of the times we think we've got to, sit there and do this 10 times a day and stand on our head and do all that kind of stuff. But actually, I think once we are ready, once we've, and I think this idea of feeling safe, which you're obviously feeling safer and safer and safer, more connected to your reality, I think things go quicker. They
yeah,
speed up, and it's not because time exists, because time doesn't exist. If anybody wants information on that on the podcast, there's plenty of videos around. But it's because our resistance is lowered. Our resistance to success is lowered, and therefore, or it's less resistant, and therefore, reality can respond. Our inner self can respond, and we
yeah,
experience it as more quickly in time. You know,
yeah,
so I think the less resistance we have to what we think we want, the quicker the manifestations. But we're manifesting. It's a dream, isn't it? It's a state of consciousness, as you know. So
yeah,
we're manifesting all the time. So is there
yeah.
anything? So is there anything else that, in terms of business and or anything around conscious creation or law of attraction or anything else you would like to add? What I do want to do is get you to give some advice, and you might not feel in a place to give advice, but I think you are, having known you and you're seeing you from afar. So when we work together, so for everybody watching, so we work together in terms of marketing, bit of coaching to help create that program. But obviously since then you've just developed on your own. So is there anything else initially that you think has really helped you in your business in terms of conscious creation? And if not, what 3 bits of advice do you think? I'm putting you on the spot here, but what 3 bits of advice do you think you'd give to somebody who's maybe starting out in business or in business and doesn't feel that they've really developed their purpose? You know what I mean? Or they're really struggling to find their way, or they feel unsafe. So anything along those lines?
I do l- attempt to look at the business as direct feedback. Sometimes I might forget that. So, as you know, I have had a case history with tech, uh, tech
Right.
challenges. Um, you know, and I've done quite a bit of work. It might sound crazy to people, but your beliefs or your sabotaging mechanisms can come through in various forms to
Yeah.
keep you small. And for me, that would come through technology. I would get very stressed, so have all that discord and energy going out,
Yeah.
but still being unaware of it, be cursing it. So just saying, oh, I hate technology and everything else.
Yeah.
And I would literally get that back. And I had such a nuts time last autumn on a webinar that it really made me go, whoa, what's going on? So I've
Oh,
kind of got,
this is a webinar you have where you invite women on as a kind of introduction. I think I remembered you
yeah, it
messaging me
shut down.
on Messenger, going, what the fuck is going on here?" type thing. So, but as you say, but you took it as feedback. I mean, that's why things cannot help but work out for you. Is because you all right. It was stressful at the time and all that, but the key to all this is to think of it simply as feedback. And although it's tricky, isn't it? Not get too attached at that point. And yeah, but anyway, carry
It's
on. Yeah, so business id feedback. Sabotage comes in many ways,
in
and it's
many
all
ways.
self-sabotage. That's
Yeah.
key, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
yes, self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Um, Also, again, in this, what I realised was in that more avoidant part of my personality was a lack of trust again, a lack of trust that people will do it right. I realised I can be controlling and I can be a perfectionist. And so this all really came out over a few months.
Right.
And I had a real physical release, emotional release about it, because I heard the beliefs that were underneath, which were, you will never be enough, good enough.
Right.
And that was quite painful. But
Yeah.
since that, it's been a progressive, continuing spiral. But I've also now developed the belief of everything's always working out for me. And I can see how those events have actually worked out for me.
Right.
So if they had been more successful, I wouldn't have then maybe changed the sales page and it's even better now. Or I wouldn't have. So by the time this person contacted me, it wouldn't be at this state. So I'm like,
Interesting.
yeah, I've really developed that.
I mean, it is interesting. I mean, this is the nature of time, isn't it? And how so obviously time in our experience is linear, last week, whatever it is. But the true nature of reality, it's simultaneous. So if you set a strong enough intention according to time of last August or July, whenever it was, that's still connected to the outcomes that you want now, and it always was connected. And it's like, because of your behaviors of recognizing its feedback, releasing these limiting beliefs about self-worth, which we all have to some other degree, but really affect business. And particularly if somebody wants to charge more or be more successful, self-worth's a kicker. But I really like the fact that a lot of people think that they can't develop new beliefs. Do you know what I mean? So they sit with their emotions, but they don't recognize that they can develop new beliefs. So I've written that down. So that's really good. I think that's really good for everyone to recognize. Very wise of you. That that we can choose and develop new beliefs.
Well,
And that is, for me, that's really freeing. I've got a list in my notebook. I've got a list of beliefs I'm developing at the minute, but a lot of people don't think about that.
Well, that is the program, which is basically affirmation-based audios that you listen to as you go to sleep at night. So it goes straight into the subconscious mind. That's why I was like, oh my God, I'm a completely different version of myself.
Yeah.
Because I spent a good 9 months listening to audios. I mean, that's what I did. And, I got more done in that 9 months than I did on the official healing path, let's say, for years. And that's why I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, it's nothing new, but I wasn't aware of it. And even spoke to a woman this morning who has been listening to them, and she said that she's feeling a lot less reactive. And I guess really, in essence, feeling more secure.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I just wanted to touch that before we move on, just because what you're doing. So we've got this whole new age going on, and anyone who's been around me or this podcast, this whole the Conscious Creation Academy, it's all about really moving on from that. And what I spoke to somebody a few days ago, and their belief in their need for healing, or their belief in their trauma, is simply creating more trauma. Do you know what I mean? So, and that really is almost the new age healing in a nutshell, which is, so come out of the religious idea that there's something wrong with you, particularly if you're a woman, or do you know what I mean, or you're a Catholic, or you're a Buddhist, and there's kind of all that kind of stuff that get refuting more and more, and of course, and it's not too difficult to refute that. But in the new age and healing only comes when you change your beliefs. That's it. That's the only way it can come, because your beliefs drive your experience of your body and your emotions. So it's really powerful that you're not keeping people in their trauma anymore, like a lot of the new age healing. It's all, oh yeah, there's something wrong with you, and you know what I mean, and let's work on what's wrong with you. And of course that will last forever. You know what I mean? Everyone goes from course to course, ritual to ritual, practitioner to practitioner. That's like, that's the new age industry, isn't it? Which is a great stepping stone, but at a certain point you've got to just deal with your subconscious beliefs, at which
I
case you
totally,
realize there's nothing wrong with you. You know what I mean?
yeah, you really hitting on some stuff. Because I think one of the things is you have to be prepared to release the attachment to your existing identity.
Yeah.
And because I had the anxious attachment identity and did become more secure, and in very naturally went, I don't want to, that's not me now. But if you stay within that, which you can easily do in all the groups and everything else,
Yeah.
you can just stay in that and you can heal these things and move on. And I used to think, well, because people would say, oh, you'll be healing for life. And I'm thinking, what? But that doesn't make sense to me. And then I believed it, being in that world. And, set myself free, and you're a really big part of that. And we're meant to have joyful lives. And once you get out of it, you actually see that a lot of people are actually having a nice time. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
But
It's almost, I mean, this is again, part of what I want to share, this idea that the new age ideas and therapies, that they're well intentioned in a way. But actually, when you come out of it, you realize it's a little bit cult like. You have to buy into the ideas of chakras, you have to buy into karma, you have to buy into all these things. And if you don't, woe betide you. But actually, and you also have to believe in trauma. You have to believe that your trauma is really the most important thing. And then you end up in these therapies. And that's why I'm really, delighted I studied hypnosis and NLP. NLP sessions, you can do stuff like you're doing. It's directly into the subconscious, and people end up thinking, hey, what on earth was I thinking? There's something wrong with me, or my left arm isn't as good as it should be, or whatever. So I think it's really, to healing in the broadest sense will only come when somebody, as you say, allows them to be a different person. I allow myself to be somebody different, and I'm willing to change my ideas about myself. And and it often takes people to go around to lots of doctors. So the doctor and the usual orthodox medicine doesn't work, but also the new age is extremely limited in that, until they bump out the other side and they go, oh, actually it's all right out here and there's nothing wrong with me.
that's it. Yeah, it's joyful. What was I going to say to you? There's something I'm going to say, but one of the things one of the things that I've developed is the ability to really make myself do these practices, and I do them every day. And that didn't come overnight. That was when I worked with a coach in 2019. And she said, you are going to do it. You're going to sit down every day and do it. And I did, because I was good at doing what I was told. One of my other beliefs, always did. But that kind of broke the resistance in me to not do things because it was uncomfortable.
Right.
And
Okay.
I think that if you want to really challenge your beliefs and your reality and where you sit in that, you have to, commit to yourself and do some practices. You do. Otherwise, you're just going to stay the same. And that can bring up all kinds of stuff, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? This idea of this comfort zone and uncomfort zone, only I did a video and I think I put it on Facebook. It is after I talked to somebody, unless you stretch yourself, psychically, emotionally, spiritually, you are, in terms of self-awareness, you're never going to change. Unless you do something, unless you do something uncomfortable, you will constantly remain the same. And then often, because we believe in time and trauma and karma and all this kind of stuff, end up with a life that's really substandard. and that I don't open myself standard in money or material goods or whatever, but just in terms of general happiness. I'm gonna review the lessons that I took from what you said about business and conscious creation. All right, so first one is think of it as feedback, and I think that's essential. It's just another feedback mechanism. You create your own reality, and your business is feeding you back insights. So it's kind of data, it's information, and not to get too connected with it. So that ups and downs, simply feedback, and if something's really working for you, focus on it. If it feels good. So the second one is self-sabotage, comes in a myriad of different ways. It could be not getting clients. It could be technology failing. Do you know what I mean? It could be anything, but these are significant in that they're bringing you're bringing attention to yourself about your own difficulties, and it's playing out in these different ways. And illness is the same, or whatever it would be. Self-worth is really essential, and I think that's key for everybody. A sense of safety in the world and in their business. I think a lot of people do not feel safe within themselves. Train your subconscious, which is what your program does. If anybody is interested, there will be links to sign up to Delyth's newsletter in the description below. So to constantly develop your subconscious, because I mean, what do you think about it? I mean, in terms of time, I was going to say, I'm 58, if you like. So I've had a lot of experience of programming myself in one way, and then I've learned to program myself in different ways. And that's the only reason I'm a different person. I'm having a different experience than I did before, because I'm constantly programming my subconscious. You can be productive without being busy. I think I would say that as well. Being productive can be quite natural and easy and flowing and fun. It doesn't have to be difficult. And also get out your comfort zone a bit. Recognize that that's where the growth is, but you don't want to go, you don't want to throw yourself in ridiculously. What you want to do is just take consistent steps in the right direction. How about that? Does that make sense?
Makes sense. And it's a massive journey of self-awareness, isn't it? And how we can trip ourselves up. Because even yesterday, I have had a possibility, or this week arise, of another revenue stream.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, I'd love to do this. This could work really well. But of course, there's a payment. And my old self would go, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. And this time around, I was like, no, I'm going to wait. And they then said, well, how about we'll give you 50% off now and you can do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, because I thought I'm not going to abandon myself for money anymore, because that's something else I could do, would abandon myself for like the carrot stick.
Sure.
That's a very big pattern of mine. And I was like, no, it's not that you don't believe or know that you're manifesting more than enough. But I've got more self-respect and more sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
And these are all new, like, characteristics.
You're like a spiritual grown-up.
I'm a spiritual grown-up.
Yeah.
I'm like, and but it's becoming so aware of our patterns.
Yeah.
And how we can portray ourselves that then is portraying the business, and there's nothing wrong. It's all just a journey of knowing oneself and refining and expansion, isn't it?
Yeah. I had the same thing. Somebody offered me something, a new different platform and all this kind of stuff, and offered me some huge discount in order to take it. But like you, I will never. It doesn't matter what discount I'm offered. I often talk to people just to see what they're doing. I'm interested, curious creature, and it doesn't matter what they offer. I will never buy. It doesn't matter about the money. I'm never driven by that, because if it's as good as they say it is, it doesn't matter about the money anyway. Do you know what I mean? Because of course we're all going to get rich. So that is an interesting thing I can really relate to, which is, if I take my attention off this and put it over here, am I abandoning actually what I really want to do and what I really feel is important? And I suppose the motivation behind that is we often feel I'm not saying this is in your case or my case, but we often feel it's not happening quick enough. So you're in business, you're doing this, you're not getting as many clients. So, the golden coin syndrome, whatever they call it, somebody comes along, offers you a massive discount. And because you don't realize your business is feedback, and you haven't dealt, as you say, you haven't dealt with the things that you have been so committed to dealing with, just jump from one thing to another, to another, to another. And of course, that's what the internet marketers are banking on, basically.
Yeah, it's an absolute minefield out there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And it can be really confusing, and I get confused. And I think that's when you need to disengage from social media to get that headspace, so you can get the inner voice saying, do that. And that's where I've got clarity, I feel, for this year, which is YouTube and the Facebook ads. That's what.
Right. Yeah.
So actually, really, the YouTube is new. So I've shut the Facebook down this week, which I feel is part of the old self, to make space for new, because I really want to do more audios and recordings. And that's more for self-expression, actually, because I'm feeling the more I can express my true self, the more abundant I will be, because it's coming from a more abundant place.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I'm in exactly the same place. I'm to my own details, but I'm really much more focusing on the spiritual stuff, a bit of marketing, working with people I want to work with, rather than, which I've been doing for quite a while now anyway. But yeah, it does get confusing, and there's all these different platforms. But I think the ultimate idea for me of conscious creation is doing what you feel that feels really good to you, and that it's going to provide value into other people. And I think if one can do that and stick to that, as well as doing sensible things like saying, okay, we do have this thing called Facebook. Do I want to run ads? Is that appropriate? And do I want to, what platform? Like you, I'm going to be much more focused on YouTube, I think, going forward. And I'm writing every day, sometimes nonsense, but I really enjoy writing. I get a real sense of purpose when I'm just sitting writing, and I do it every day. I may not share it, but I know it makes the business better, because it makes me better. It makes me more kind of resonates with my purpose and that type of thing. Brilliant. Okay.
Something to that. So what you've just said, if I have written down 3 bits of advice, but I think what you've just said there is really great advice for someone wanting to start their business and connect it into their conscious creation. Is I've shifted my working in January. So I've been sleeping in a bit later, because that's just what my body wants to do. Wasn't a decision. Still doing about an hour of, say, spiritual work or manifesting work, then going out for a really nice slow walk, then doing the social media posts in the morning, have my lunch, and then I will work quite solidly on, say, doing something like this, or doing the Facebook ad thing or whatever, until, say, I don't know, 6 or 7 or even later. And I'm really enjoying that.
Right.
And I think it's that finding your rhythm around bringing in other things. I have to go out and walk 2 or 3 times a day.
Right.
I have to have that morning practice. But I know that breathes life.
Yes.
Into the creation of the business. That's actually the most important thing, I feel. Because
I'm the same. So I will wake up when I wake up. I could sleep for England, because I have lots of lovely dreams and I tend to remember them. And, so I love playing around in my dreams. But I will essentially work when I kind of feel like it, when I feel the impulse to it. I do run ads, and I do all that kind of stuff. But I recognize, like you, that the word rhythm's a good one. It's my rhythm, because I'm also stubborn and I don't want to do what I don't want to do, and I don't feel it's necessary, because I know I create my own reality. So why would it be necessary for me to feel pressure to be at the desk at 9 and all that kind of stuff? I mean, I haven't worked a full day in years. many years, truth be told. And I've worked very, very little over the last year. I really haven't. I've just followed that rhythm, and it's worked out, and it's changing. So no, I admire that. This is what I say, it's what I think. This is why I think your success is guaranteed in terms of, well, no, I think it is, in terms of your own personal development, in that you are finding new ways and expanding yourself, but also that reflects in your business and the opportunities that will come in, and it's not like a massive intellectual pushing you're doing. You're using your intellect to create Facebook ads and look at the statistics, so that's great, but then you're spending other time really doing the most important thing, which is connecting to that broader self. And that's really where it all happens. The rest of it is just it's a tiny bit of feedback, really. Our lives and business, we really think it's obviously we have to earn money, but I think we over focus on it, the importance. Everything happens, as Seth would say, in framework two, so outside of physical reality. That's our main reality. This is the feedback, and if we can do that and get into that rhythm, I think success is guaranteed in many, many ways. So
Yeah, I had a beautiful day of synchronicities on Sunday. Which is like selling a massage bed to a woman that was in a place called the Health Barn, which I'd always wanted to visit. That's where she's just happened to work. I was meant to go on the Saturday. I had vertigo. I couldn't go on the Saturday, so I had to go on the Sunday. I go there. They're like, yes, come and do something here. And I'm like, oh, amazing. And then I go and saunter down to this hall, which years ago I bought my sister and her husband a gift for Christmas to stay. And I just basically gate crash a wedding fair. I didn't know it was on. And you're just able to walk around this whole beautiful hall that's got Michelin starred restaurant that normally is, you shouldn't be allowed in. And I had the most magical day. And I was just like, there's something really mad. This is pure magic, this is. I was meant to not be able to go yesterday. I had to go today because that's the day the fair was on. And it was just this beautiful thing. I was meant to sell the massage bed this week, not 6 months ago, not 2 months. It was a whole,
yeah.
I'll tell you how it felt, that the threads of time were all intersected.
Right.
Like woven.
And which is true, and energetically,
It was,
that's but that's lovely, isn't it? And I think that is definitely a way we can run our business, we can run our lives. That's the whole one of Seth in the Seth material I mentioned again. One of the last book, one of them is called The Magical Approach, which I think is the embodiment of that. And I think, yeah, and I think that's my aspiration is to have days where, I mean, we all ebb and flow, but to have days where one is feeling connected, flowing, things are working out, it's relaxed, abundant, easy, so yeah, so sounds like you're doing brilliantly.
yeah, thank you. That was delightful.
Yeah, delightful. It's a good word, isn't it?
Mm.
All right, so we will finish up now. So thank you for watching, everybody. I hope that's been interesting. So I'll put some links in the description here. So where can people find you is the next. So just reaffirm, who do you work with, what do you do, and where can they find you?
Sure. So I will work with women to really help them to I'll start again. I work with women to help them to become more secure in themselves. So everything we've talked about is really about becoming more secure.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And that's going to help you have more fulfilling relationships in love, but throughout your whole life. And I would wish that for anybody, because the difference that has made to my own life, all of my relationships, now and in the future, and even how I relate to things in the past, completely different.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. So I have a website below. I think it's a mouthful, secureinselfjourney.com. That's going to be, and that's for my email newsletter. But I think, Dave, will you put the programs down there as well.
I will put all the links that you want
Thanks.
in the description. Yeah. Okay, so we will leave it there. Thank you very much for being the first on the business side, but I think it of the podcast. But I do think it reiterates to me more and more, about having really recognizing that business work and all the rest of it is valuable to talk about, and in these kind of terms. So I will put links in there to my own newsletter and stuff if people are interested. Please do like the video if you enjoy it and follow along on the channel, and we will leave it there. So
Thank
thank
you.
you very much, Delyth. I will see you
Thanks
soon.
again.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.